Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, This Green's Life. My name is Sherry. If you're new here, welcome. If not, welcome back. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has been liking my videos, commenting on my videos, sharing my videos, and subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much because as I mentioned, I appreciate that my channel is growing organically and you guys are the ones that are helping this to happen. So thank you again and continue to like, comment, and share, okay? And definitely subscribe. So, what's my message today? My message is how your parents set you up for disrespect. And I'm going to explain that. My last video, I talked about your pullout game. And I talked about the fact that, the way we are raised really contributes to how we show up as adults. It really contributes how we form relationships with other people and how we show up in those relationships with other people. It definitely contributes to our feelings of self love. It contributes to our self esteem, right? Because these are the first people that you are in relation with, right? Think about it. This is where your first relationships start at home, and you're a child. So all you could do is respond to your environment, right? And pick up from your environment because remember, you're a child, you're like a sponge. You're picking up what's around you because you don't know any better. So it's almost like when you get to be an adult now, you have to unlearn some of those things, especially if you notice that they have uh, created some negative experiences in your life because I mentioned in another one of my videos that you get around some other broken and toxic people, they feel like home, right? It's something that you're accustomed to, and not until you recognize like this is not right, you're going to just keep falling into that cycle, right? So what am I talking about today? How your family sets you up for disrespect. I'm coming from a Caribbean background, and I want people who are coming from other, backgrounds to chime in too, because I'm not sure how, maybe people from America or whatever, how it was in your family. So I'm just talking from a Caribbean perspective. In New York, like that's where mostly all of my family lived, whether we lived in Brooklyn, Queens, Long Island, whatever. Large family. As I was growing up every day, people were coming out the woodwork. I think, well, my mother made me have two or three or four or five brothers and sisters. And then all of a sudden, no, this is Uncle so and so, this is Aunt so and so. So big family. And what I noticed from, when I was growing up, there was no line, there were no boundaries in terms of things that occurred in the house. Like they would stay in the house, meaning, something would happen and that would just remain in the home, right? It would be something would happen or some event would happen and everybody would know what was going on because it's like something happened and a bulletin is sent out to all the family members. And I'm talking about in terms of the children because you would hope that people understand that children are going to make mistakes because they're children. They are going to experiment. They are trying to find their way as a person in this world. They're trying to navigate this thing called life. You spend X amount of hours in the home, but you eventually have to go outside. And guess what? You're going to be influenced by other people. You're going to want to try things. You're going to want to experiment. You're going to want to have a quote unquote normal childhood. But it's very hard to do that when you have a microscope on top of you. And what's even worse is when you're experimenting, you're living life, you're being a kid, and everybody knows what's going on. Because as soon as something happens, as I mentioned, somebody's getting on the phone to tell this person, oh, look at what Sherry did today. Oh, look what Sherry's doing. And you don't never get a chance to just be a normal kid. And I'm not saying that it wasn't also the reverse, because I'm pretty sure that my aunts and uncles used to call my mom or dad and talk about their kids too. But I'm just going to talk about it from my point of view. I just felt like I was always under this microscope. So, what happens when you grow up like that? When you go outside and you go around these other family members now, people are looking at you sideways. People are making remarks to you. They're saying things to you. No one never comes up to you and asks you like, "Hey, are you all right? Um, what's going on with you? Is everything good? Is there anything that I could do to help, or let me give you some advice, like things that you think a normal adult would do. No, no. They instead, they're gossiping about you. They're saying things about you. And to me, what this does, it creates a sense of comfort, meaning now you set it up where these people feel they can say anything to you. They can treat you any kind of way because your parents kind of opened up the door to your personal life, that others feel now that they can comment about you. And again, I'm not saying this wasn't going on with other children, but I'm just talking from my perspective. I just felt like my life was always on front page news. You know what I'm saying? In terms of the family. So it's almost like you're a black sheep. And what made it worse in my family, I, again, am first generation American, right? Because my brother and sister were born in England. I'm the only child born in America. So that also had something to do with my behavior. When something happened, they would be like, "Oh, she's American. That's how they act." So you almost feel like you're being ostracized because you're American. Anything you do is because you're American. It was just ridiculous. So it almost seems like there was a lot of petting, competition amongst the kids, in terms of who's doing what and why, and because they're American, and these ones were born in the Caribbean, and these ones were born in England, and it's just a whole bunch of foolishness, right? So I said that this is how your parents kind of set you up for disrespect. Because guess what happens now? For your entire life, you have been the conversation in other people's homes. And again, I may have not been privy to what was going on in other people's homes, because maybe once in a while my mom or dad would mention something going on with other people's kids. But like I said, I can only talk from my perspective. I just felt like my life was always in somebody's house. So now you get older, right? And when I say older, I might mean you're no longer a teenager. You're no longer a child. You're no longer a teenager. You're now in your 20s, your 30s, whatever. And do you know that even at your big grown age, you got people still trying to talk to you sideways, making comments to you, being disrespectful to you, because your whole life has been, your whole life has been a part of their conversations all of these years. And like I said, no one has ever come to you and asked you your side of the story. They never asked you how you're doing. They just took whatever was being told to them and they decided to run with that. So then they feel like they know you, right? Even though they've never had a conversation with you personally. But they feel because of what they heard about you, they know you. So that means now when they see you, they feel like they don't have to respect you because they don't hear a lot of the good things that you're doing. They're just hearing most of the negative things that you're doing. They don't know why you're doing the negative things that you're doing, quote unquote. They don't know anything. They just been told from your parents' perspective, this is what I feel, this is what I understand is going on. And then the other person is like, "Oh my God, that's what she's doing. Oh my God, that's what he's doing. Oh, that's terrible. Bop, 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 bop." So now they know you. So they feel like, oh, I know you. I know your life. I know what you're like. I know what you're about. Oh, so when I talk to you, I don't have to have no respect for you. As a matter of fact, when I come in your house where you live, I'm going to even say things to you because your parents have opened up that door for disrespect. So, like I said, even as an adult, you still have to kind of navigate that because these people never really got to know you per se. They only got to know a version of you based upon what was being told to them. And for a long time, I always felt like you have no idea how terrible that made me feel as a person because I would go around people like I said and you could tell that they already had these preconceived notions of who you are, but they never gave you the respect to ask you like what's really going on with you. So what does that look like? That looks like at the end of the day these people really don't care about you. You know why? Because they never ask you anything about you. They're just going based upon what the adult said. And that's just the way a lot of Caribbean people roll. Well, if the adult said this thing about the child, then it had to be right. It had to be true. And we're going to side with the adult. So now my parents have passed away. Both of them have transitioned. And I'm an adult. And I still feel like I still have to combat some of this because I still have family members that feel that they could approach me and talk to me any type of way because of the foundation that was set by my parents. They never really got to know me. They never had a conversation with me. Never. Not one of my relatives have ever sat down and had a conversation with me about me. So whatever understanding they have of me is based upon what they've been told. So here we are. Me, I'm a full grown woman now. And you got these people who still feel like, oh, okay, I'm gonna every time her name comes up or anytime I see her, I'm just gonna revert back to my understanding of who she is. So even though she's a grown woman, I'm still going to talk to her this type of way because the disrespect, that door has already been opened. And again, for a long time, you're a child, so you don't really defend yourself against these behaviors. But guess what? I'm a grown up now. So you remember my last video when I talked about my pullout game? Yeah, yeah. Because guess what? I will blaze you up with no apology. Because I'm a grown woman. And what I've come to learn in me learning to love myself is that I'm not taking no disrespect from nobody. I don't care who you are. I don't care how old you are. I don't care. You remember I talked about in my last video how we give people titles and we feel like, because this person is so and so to us, then we let things slide. I'm not letting nothing slide. I'm sorry. Because the way I feel is if you really wanted to know me, you would have come and addressed me. And I know we have these kind of antiquated behaviors, especially Caribbean families where the child is the child and the adult is the adult. And like I said, everything the adult says is right and the child is always wrong and the child should always show respect. And I'm not disagreeing with that to a certain aspect in terms of showing respect. I'm not disagreeing with that. But respect has to go two ways. Not just because somebody is younger means that they don't deserve respect too. Like respect shouldn't just be earned because you're so and so or you're a so and so age or whatever. That's not the way the world works. Now, if you're saying that, because, I was about to say something about age, but I still feel like as long as you're younger than these people, they still look at you almost like you're a child. Even when you a big grown age, you see the hair on my head? And I still have to be out here trying to tell people like, no. And you know what's crazy too? It's not only the adults, it's the children of those adults that also feel that they want to carry on the disrespect, because remember, they're in the homes listening to the aunt, the uncle, hear stories about you. And even them themselves, the cousins, wouldn't even come and ask you, tell me about your life, tell me about what's going on with you. They just automatically go along with whatever story they've heard, and then they feel now that they can disrespect you too. But, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. So what did I come and tell you? What did I come tell you today? Don't make that mistake. Don't walk around the world and talk about your children to other people, because I'm showing you what the outcome can be. People are going to feel that because you're telling them things about your child, that they can be disrespectful to your children too. So you're setting your kids up to be disrespected by other people once you go outside and start telling their personal business to other people. I have two children. They get on my nerves sometimes. I ain't gonna lie to you. But I'm never going outside to nobody outside of my family to go talk about my children to nobody. Because you're never going to disrespect my kids. Period, point blank. I don't care. Because I know how that feels. I know how that feels to be ostracized. Up until this day, I'm still facing that because they just want to know the Sherry that they have been told about. They never asked me who I am. And you know what? I've come to accept that's what you think, that's fine. I can't do anything to change your mind. But what I won't do is accept your disrespect, though. If that's what you feel, that's what you feel. I can't stop people from talking about me. But you see, when it comes down to my children, I said I would never put my kids in that position. And I've even had a family member try to disrespect my child. Two of my family members try to disrespect my children. Because you see how they carry this on. Because they heard things about you. So now they're saying, oh, well, your kids must be the same way. But who am I? Do you even know who I am? You've never even sat down and had a conversation with me. You don't want to know who I am. You just want to go along with what you heard. But you don't know me as a person. And I'm telling you, for a long time, that really bothered me because I feel like I'm an outsider. Because people, and I don't know anybody else's dirt. One or two cousins, I might know some things about them, but they're not being like, I just feel like me personally, I've always been ostracized. That's a very painful thing, to be ostracized by people who have never even taken the time to get to know you as a person. They're just judging you based upon what they've been told. And in my life, I've gone on to do some beautiful things. And that's the funny part. No one even, like, they don't even pay attention to that. They don't even pay attention to the fact that maybe some of the things I did was because of the dysfunction that was going on in my house. Even though they know my home was dysfunctional, they swept that under the rug and said, nah, she's just like that. What am I like, really? Because you don't know me. So I just wanted to come and say today, people, please be careful about the things. Don't get on the phone and talk to other people about your children. Don't do it. Don't make them go through that. It's very painful. And if you are doing it, stop. Don't do that. Nobody needs to know what your children are experiencing as they're growing, because they're going to make mistakes and they're going to do things that they shouldn't do, just like we did. But they don't need their lives to be somebody else's entertainment. Because sometimes people got their own stuff going on in their homes and they're using your stories for their entertainment purposes, so they don't have to look at their own stuff. Because trust me, a lot of these family members, they had their own stuff going on in their house. So for them to not have to focus on their own stuff, I became, their entertainment. Don't do that to your children. That's how come I guard my children with my life. Like, don't say nothing about my kids. I let people know that right now. Don't, because I got family members calling me to ask me about my kids. They think that I'm ever going to sit on the phone and say, oh, this person was getting on my nerves. Yeah, because your kids get on your nerves sometimes. That's the reality. Sometimes your kids do stuff that you're not happy about, but they're kids. Like, one of my children just turned 21. My other daughter, she's 33. So she's a grown woman. She's married. She have her child or whatever. She's living her life. But no, I'm not going to sit down and discuss with you their business. And I have family members that's trying to do, and guess what? I had to just cut them off. Because you're not coming to bring no drama to my house. You go figure out your own life. Because what they want to do now is come and get information about my children so they could go run their mouth about my kids. Yeah, do you see the wickedness that's going on here? So all I'm saying to you guys, I want you to pay attention to the can of worms that you're opening up once you get on the phone or you go and talk about your children to other people. You're supposed to be, your family should be a tight unit. Nobody should come between you and your children. And I learned that, that was the lesson that I had to learn. When you go through things, you realize that these are lessons that you had to learn. So when you have children, you know what to do and what not to do. And that was one of the lessons I had to learn in terms of my children. I don't let anybody come between me and my children. And I'm not going to sit down and talk to you about my kids. I don't care if they're getting on my nerves. You will never know. Because that's not your business. And they have the right to evolve just like everybody else. And they don't need to be, a topic of your conversation. That's never going to happen. And like I said, I got family members who, I'm all the way in Grenada. They in America, and they contacted me to ask me how my daughter's doing. Why is that your business? What she's doing, what she's not. It's none of your business. And what I'm doing is letting my daughter live her life. I'm pretty sure she's more happy than you are. You know why? Because we just sit here and mind our business. We don't be in no trouble with other people. That's not how I raise my kids. So long story short, guys, please be mindful of having conversations about your children with other people. And I know sometimes you want somebody to talk to, right? But find a way to keep it in the family, meaning amongst you and your children. And I need you to be careful about that too, because you don't want to sit down and talk about one sibling to the other. I myself has even been guilty of doing that. But what I appreciate is that my older daughter, you see, because they have such a big gap between their ages, and my daughter is a very practical person. She is not going to, if I call her to say something that I'm not, pleased with about my younger daughter, she's not going to sit there and just take my side. She's a person who can be objective, and she will let me know where I'm wrong, and she will talk to my daughter and let her know where she's wrong. So I appreciate that about her. It's not causing any kind of sibling rivalry or things of that nature. So even that you have to be careful of. But do not open up the door for other people to feel that they can be disrespectful to your children. Don't do it. The relationship you have with your children is between you and them. Respect them enough to allow you and their relationship to develop. Okay? So that's the message for today. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Don't forget to like, to share, to comment, and definitely subscribe. Take care, everybody.